A man once decided he wanted to lose 50 pounds. He set his goal, wrote it down, even taped a photo of his younger self to the mirror. Weeks passed, then months, and though he worked hard at first, the enthusiasm faded. But another man with the same desire built a different plan. He created a system. He walked each morning at sunrise, replaced soda with water, and went to bed an hour earlier. A year later, the second man didn't just reach his goal. He built a lifestyle that sustained it. The first man chased results. The second built habits. The difference: one set a goal, the other set a system. This is Earl Nightingale, and today I'd like to talk to you about a quiet secret that separates those who wish from those who achieve. We live in a world that celebrates goals: earn this much, weigh that little, buy this home, or reach that milestone. Yet, if you were to follow the lives of truly successful men and women, you'd find that their focus isn't fixed on the goal at all. It's on the system that makes the goal inevitable. You see, goals are destinations, but systems are the roads that lead to them. And what good is a destination if the road to get there is broken or unfinished? The truth is, most people spend their lives setting new goals and abandoning old ones because they never take the time to build the daily habits that turn dreams into reality. A goal is about the future. A system is about today, and today is all we ever really have. When we create systems, routines, disciplines, structures, we turn effort into rhythm. The writer who commits to 1 page a day doesn't need to set a goal to write a book. The system takes care of that. The musician who practices an hour each morning doesn't need to chase the dream of mastery. The system will deliver it in time. Our lives are the sum of what we repeatedly do. Excellence, as Aristotle said, is not an act but a habit. The man who depends on motivation will find himself at the mercy of his emotions. But the man who builds systems works whether he feels like it or not, for he knows that consistency outlasts inspiration. Goals define outcomes, systems define identity. This truth is subtle, yet it holds the power to change the course of any life. When a man sets a goal, he's often looking at something distant, a point in time that he wishes to reach. But when he builds a system, he begins shaping who he is right now. A goal might say, "I want to be fit," but a system says, "I am someone who moves my body every day." The distinction is profound. One focuses on what we want to have, the other on who we choose to become. Throughout life, we are told to aim high, to dream big, to set goals and chase them with determination. Yet, what most people fail to realize is that goals are temporary. They live in the future, while systems live in the present. The man who only sets goals keeps his eyes on the horizon, while the man who builds systems keeps his hands in the soil, cultivating the ground beneath him. Over time, the one who works the soil bears fruit, while the other continues to wait for the right season to begin. The power of identity lies in repetition. Every time you act according to your system, you cast a vote for the kind of person you wish to become. The artist who paints daily, not for an exhibition but because it's who he is, strengthens his identity as an artist. The businessman who studies his craft each morning, not because of a quarterly target but because excellence has become his nature, moves closer to mastery without chasing it. Systems anchor you to process, and process shapes identity. When you define yourself by your system, you no longer rely on the uncertain winds of motivation. You act because your system is who you are, not because you feel inspired in the moment. That's why the great achievers of history rarely spoke of goals. They spoke of disciplines, habits, and practices. Thomas Edison didn't set a goal to invent the light bulb. He set a system of relentless experimentation. Leonardo da Vinci didn't dream vaguely of being a master. He followed a daily practice of observation and creation. Their success was not a target. It was a reflection of identity. If goals are the fruit on the tree, systems are the roots underground. The fruit may change with the season, but the roots remain, feeding the tree year after year. Too many people focus on the fruit and ignore the roots, and when the season passes, they wonder why nothing grows again. Systems dig deep, forming the unseen structure that sustains growth long after the excitement of a new goal has faded. So, the question we must ask ourselves is not, "What do I want to achieve?" but "Who do I want to become?" Because once we decide who we are, the system becomes natural. The goal no longer feels like a chase. It becomes the natural outcome of identity. The man who lives by a system aligned with his values never struggles to stay consistent. He's simply acting in harmony with who he is. Goals motivate you once, systems guide you daily. The moment a man sets a goal, a spark ignites within him. He feels alive with vision, filled with a temporary surge of energy that makes the impossible seem possible. But as the days pass, the fire begins to fade. The excitement that once propelled him forward gives way to the weight of habit, fatigue, and distraction. The goal, once bright and shining, becomes a distant thought. Yet the man who builds a system never depends on the flicker of that first flame. His light burns steady day after day, because his actions are no longer tied to feeling, but to rhythm. Motivation is a fine thing, but it is fleeting. It's like a gust of wind. It can push the sailboat forward, but it cannot control the tide. A system, on the other hand, is like the ocean current. It moves beneath the surface, unseen but steady, guiding the vessel regardless of the weather. The individual who relies solely on goals lives from one burst of motivation to another, often frustrated by inconsistency. But the one who relies on systems continues forward, even in silence, even when enthusiasm wanes. Every day presents a choice: to act because we feel inspired, or to act because we have built a structure that makes action natural. The salesman who depends on motivation to make calls will struggle to keep going when the day feels long. But the salesman with a system, calling 5 new prospects every morning at the same hour, doesn't question it. It becomes part of him, an unquestioned rhythm of his day. And soon, his results speak not of effort, but of consistency. When we design systems, we design our environment to work for us instead of against us. A system doesn't rely on memory or mood. It reduces decision fatigue and turns important actions into second nature. The athlete doesn't ask, "Do I feel like training today?" The artist doesn't wait for inspiration to strike. Their systems answer those questions before they arise. The greatest performers across history weren't necessarily the most talented. They were the most systematic. Their routines became the invisible engines of their success. Motivation, for all its charm, lives in moments. Systems live in motion. Motivation must be rekindled again and again. Like a fire that constantly needs fuel, systems require only maintenance, for once built they run with quiet persistence. It is this persistence that carves skill, sharpens the mind, and builds character. The man who follows a system doesn't rush toward progress. He allows progress to unfold through repetition. The real miracle of systems is that they transform effort into identity. Each repeated action reinforces belief, and each belief strengthens the next action. Soon, what began as discipline becomes nature. What began as effort becomes ease. The man guided by a system no longer waits for motivation. He wakes with purpose, not because of what he seeks to achieve, but because of who he has already become through the system that guides him daily. Systems create progress even when motivation fades. There will come a time in every man's journey when the fire that once burned so brightly begins to dim. The morning that used to bring excitement now feels heavy, and the tasks that once inspired him begin to feel routine. This is where most people stop. They mistake the fading of motivation for the end of their capability. But those who live by systems understand something deeper. Progress does not depend on feeling good. It depends on doing what must be done. A system is like a well-built machine. It keeps moving even when the operator grows tired. Once it's set in motion, its very structure produces momentum. The writer who commits to writing 500 words each morning does not need to rely on inspiration. He writes whether the words come easily or not. And over time, those pages become chapters, and those chapters become books. The system carries him forward, even when his emotions do not. That is the quiet, uncelebrated strength of structure. It outlasts enthusiasm. Motivation is a wonderful starting force. It gets us moving, but it was never meant to keep us moving. It's like a matchstick. It can light the fire, but only fuel keeps it alive. Systems are that fuel. They provide direction when passion wanes and clarity when doubt appears. The man who depends on motivation will rise and fall with his moods. The man who depends on his system will keep rising regardless of how he feels. His progress may not always be dramatic, but it is certain. Every great craftsman, musician, and thinker who ever lived knew this truth. The sculptor does not carve only when he feels inspired. He carves because the stone awaits him each morning. The pianist does not play only when he is moved by music. He plays because his fingers demand practice. Their systems sustain their art when the heart grows weary, and as the days accumulate, the fruits of their discipline begin to bloom quietly, inevitably beautifully. Progress, by its very nature, is not always visible. It often hides beneath repetition. It disguises itself in the monotony of small, consistent actions, yet each repetition, each deliberate step, strengthens the foundation upon which mastery is built. Systems teach us patience. They remind us that the real measure of growth is not in how passionately we start, but in how steadily we continue. There is great peace in knowing that your progress does not depend on how you feel. When you trust your system, you are free from the constant tug of motivation and discouragement. You no longer wait for the perfect moment, you create it. And every day you act, you place another stone on the path toward excellence. One day you'll look back and realize that even on your weakest days, Your system was still working, still carrying you forward, quietly building the future you once only dreamed of. A system turns discipline into routine and routine into results. Discipline, in its rawest form, is a force of will. It's the decision to act in spite of comfort, to choose effort over ease. But willpower is a limited resource. It burns hot and fast. What sustains achievement is the transformation of discipline into habit, and habit into an effortless rhythm. This transformation happens when a system is in place, guiding your actions so naturally that they become part of your identity. What once felt like struggle begins to feel like order. What once required force begins to flow. When a man begins something new, he relies heavily on discipline. He must push himself to wake early, to study, to work out, to write, to build. These acts do not come easily in the beginning. They demand thought, energy, and sometimes discomfort. But if he repeats these actions under a structured system, at the same time, in the same manner, day after day, discipline gives birth to habit. The effort that once required courage becomes the ordinary pattern of his life. The mind adapts, the body follows, and soon the routine becomes the natural state of being. The difference between the ordinary man and the master lies in this transition. The ordinary man uses discipline as a weapon, drawing it only when necessary. The master builds a system that keeps discipline alive without effort. His environment, his schedule, his habits, they all work together to make the right action the easy action. He doesn't fight himself every morning. His system removes the need for battle. Routine becomes his silent ally. Once discipline has matured into routine, results cease to be unpredictable. They become inevitable. The farmer who tends his land daily doesn't wonder whether the crops will grow. He knows they will because his system ensures it. The student who studies a little each day doesn't panic before the exam. His system has already prepared him. Systems take uncertainty and turn it into predictability. They remove chance from the equation of success. There's a kind of quiet dignity in routine. Many look at it as dull repetition, but in truth, routine is freedom. It frees the mind from the burden of constant decision-making. It frees the heart from the noise of hesitation. When you have a system that works, you no longer waste energy wondering what to do next. You simply do it. This is the essence of mastery. It's not found in bursts of inspiration, but in the steadiness of repetition. And as routine produces results, something remarkable happens. The very results you once dreamed of begin to feel ordinary. Success becomes your new normal. You no longer strive for it, you simply live it. A well-built system transforms ambition into certainty. It bridges the gap between effort and outcome until what once required discipline becomes effortless motion, and the life you once imagined becomes the life you quietly live every single day. Goals can limit vision, systems expand potential. When a person sets a goal, he often confines himself to a single destination, a single outcome he believes will define success. He measures his worth by reaching that point and nothing beyond it. But the world doesn't stop when a goal is achieved. In fact, many discover an emptiness the moment they arrive. They climb the mountain only to realize there are higher peaks they never noticed. The man who lives by goals is bound by the walls of his own imagination. The man who lives by systems walks freely beyond them. A goal is static. It tells you what to achieve, not who to become. It draws a line in the sand and says, once you reach this, you're done. But life is never done. Growth has no finish line. Systems, on the other hand, are dynamic. They evolve with you. They allow for expansion, improvement, and discovery. A man with a system of learning doesn't stop once he's read 10 books. He keeps learning for life. A craftsman who practices his skill each day doesn't stop once he masters a technique. He moves on to the next. Systems keep you moving, growing, expanding. When your vision is tied to a goal, you risk narrowing your focus so much that you miss opportunities that lie just outside it. You become attached to a single path, and in doing so, you ignore better ones that appear along the way. But when your vision is guided by a system, your mind stays open. You begin to see growth not as a target, but as a way of living. You don't chase the finish line, you expand the field. This is how the great innovators of history operated. They weren't driven by one goal, but by systems of inquiry, curiosity, and persistence. Thomas Edison didn't stop inventing once he created the light bulb. He had a system for invention itself, and that system produced 1,000 creations. Goals, by their nature, end. They can even breed disappointment, because once reached, they provide no further direction. The runner who trains only for a single race often loses purpose once it's over. But the runner who builds a system of training, rest, and improvement continues to evolve long after the race is done. His potential is unlimited because his system sustains him. Systems remove the ceiling that goals impose. They make the process infinite. There's something quietly liberating about living without a finish line. You stop measuring success in milestones and start measuring it in movement. Each day becomes its own reward. Every action, no matter how small, feeds into something larger than any single goal could ever represent. When you live through systems, progress becomes your natural state, not an occasional achievement. You are no longer limited by what you once imagined. You are constantly discovering what more you can become. And that is the true essence of potential, to live not in pursuit of an ending, but in the endless rhythm of becoming. A system builds consistency, the cornerstone of mastery. In life there is no substitute for steady, unrelenting effort. Talent, inspiration, and luck may open doors, but it is consistency that keeps them open. And consistency is not born from bursts of motivation or fleeting enthusiasm. It is born from systems. A man may wish to be great, he may dream of excellence, but without a system to guide him day after day, week after week, those dreams remain just that, dreams. Systems give shape to action, and action repeated consistently is what transforms a person from ordinary to extraordinary. Consistency is often misunderstood. Many think it requires heroic effort or continuous intensity, but in truth, consistency is quiet. It is the small, deliberate actions taken over time, the choices repeated even when no one is watching, even when the initial excitement has faded. The writer who commits to writing 300 words every morning may never feel inspired, but each word adds to a body of work that will eventually astonish the world. The musician who practices scales daily may grow tired of repetition, yet each scale strengthens technique and instinct. Systems allow consistency to happen without depending on emotion, willpower, or chance. The greatest masters of any field understood that results do not come from sporadic effort, but from the disciplined rhythm of a system. The painter does not wait for a muse. He paints each day, and inspiration follows discipline, not the other way around. The athlete does not rely on flashes of courage. He trains daily, and mastery grows from the accumulation of repeated practice. Every great achievement in history is the result of thousands of small, consistent actions, carefully guided by a system designed to produce growth. Consistency also breeds confidence. When a man knows that his system guides him reliably, he no longer doubts himself or his path. He wakes each day with purpose, secure in the knowledge that the actions he takes will compound into results. Confidence is not the product of luck or occasional success. It is the natural byproduct of knowing that effort, applied steadily and systematically, produces progress. Systems remove uncertainty, because they transform ambition into habit and habit into predictable movement toward excellence. Perhaps most importantly, consistency is what separates intention from reality. Many people have grand intentions, but without consistent action, intention is powerless. A man who dreams of wealth, health, or skill but acts inconsistently will find his dreams fading like mist in the morning sun. But a man who lives by systems builds momentum daily, and that momentum carries him forward, even when challenges arise, even when obstacles appear. Systems make progress inevitable because they harness the quiet, invisible power of repetition. To build mastery, a man must embrace the rhythm of a system. He must design his life so that the right actions happen naturally, day in and day out, without relying on mood, motivation, or chance. For in the end, greatness is not born from brilliance alone. It is born from the steady, unwavering, systematic application of effort, until the extraordinary becomes simply the natural result of living a life guided by consistency. When you focus on systems, success becomes a byproduct, not a pursuit. Too often, men and women chase results as if they were wild horses, thinking that the harder they run, the faster they will catch them. They set goals and measure every moment against those distant markers, forgetting that life does not yield to desire alone. The truth is, success is not something to be pursued directly. It is something that emerges naturally when you design the right patterns in your daily life. A system creates the conditions in which success cannot help but appear. Consider the man who wishes to write a book. If he focuses solely on the end, completing a novel, seeing it on a shelf, hearing the applause, he may find himself stalled, paralyzed by the immensity of the task. But the man who sets a system, writing one page each morning, revising one paragraph each evening, does not worry about the finished product. He trusts the system, and day by day, the book takes shape without him having to chase it. Success becomes a natural consequence of his disciplined practice, not a prize at the end of a long, uncertain path. The principle applies to every field of endeavor. The investor who studies markets, reads daily, and invests consistently according to a plan does not obsess over quarterly returns. The entrepreneur who meets prospects, improves his craft, and delivers value daily does not fix it on revenue targets. In each case, the outcome, wealth, influence, achievement, follows naturally from the system they have put in place. The system turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results, not by chance but by design. Chasing success directly is exhausting because it depends on variables beyond your control. Motivation fluctuates, circumstances shift, and the unexpected always arises. But a system does not depend on these things. It is built to function regardless of mood, weather, or fortune. It channels effort efficiently, removes wasted motion, and ensures that every small action contributes to progress. The man who trusts his system need not fear setbacks, for he knows that each day he moves forward, even imperceptibly. There is also a profound psychological effect to focusing on systems rather than results. When a man measures himself by the quality of his daily actions rather than distant outcomes, he finds peace, confidence, and satisfaction in the present moment. Anxiety about achievement fades, replaced by pride in living consistently with purpose. This mental state itself becomes a source of success, because clarity, calm, and focus allow action to flow unimpeded, and so success becomes a byproduct of living well. It is not demanded, it is attracted. When you concentrate on the process, on the daily habits and routines that create growth, the outcome is inevitable. The man who sets systems aligned with his values and his abilities does not have to chase success. He simply becomes the kind of person to whom success naturally attaches. It is a quiet law of life, one often overlooked, yet one that has guided every master, every achiever, and every person who has left a mark on the world. Goals end, systems evolve. This is a subtle truth that few truly understand, yet it carries immense power for those willing to listen. When a man sets a goal, he creates a finish line, a marker that says, "When I reach this, I am done." And for a brief moment, that goal can provide clarity, direction, and motivation. But life is not a series of finish lines. It is a continuum, a flowing river of experience, opportunity, and growth. When the goal is reached, too often the man finds himself adrift, unsure what comes next. Systems, however, do not end. They grow with you, they adapt, expand, and evolve as your knowledge, skill, and character develop. A goal is rigid. It tells you where to stop. A system is fluid. It tells you how to move. When you rely solely on goals, you risk becoming fixated on endpoints and missing the journey itself. You measure life in milestones and can forget that the most important changes happen in the day-to-day actions that a goal cannot capture. A system, by contrast, is designed to perpetuate progress. It adapts when circumstances change, it refines itself as you gain experience, and it nurtures continual growth. Consider the musician who sets a goal to play a specific piece perfectly. He may achieve it, but what happens next? Without a system, his improvement stops and the skills fade. But the musician who builds a system of daily practice, study, and experimentation does not stop at any one achievement. Each day he practices, he refines technique, explores new melodies, and expands his abilities. His system evolves naturally, and with it, his potential grows far beyond what any single goal could define. The evolutionary power of systems lies in their design. A well-constructed system contains feedback, adjustment, and learning. It allows the individual to assess what works and discard what does not, to refine methods and enhance efficiency. The goal of the moment becomes part of a larger pattern, a step in a continuing process rather than the final measure of success. Systems are not bound by one definition of achievement, they are bound only by purpose. This understanding frees a man from the tyranny of arbitrary endpoints. When you focus on systems, you are no longer limited by the anxiety of completing one target or the disappointment of missing another. Your growth becomes continuous. Your skills, habits, and knowledge accumulate, layer upon layer, each building on the last. Systems are living structures. They respond, adjust, and endure. The man who relies on systems does not worry about running out of goals. His journey continues, endlessly expanding as he moves, learns, and acts. Ultimately, systems transform life from a series of interruptions into a seamless progression. While goals may fade, be met, or become irrelevant, systems carry the individual forward, adapting, evolving, and creating pathways that a rigid target could never provide. This is why true achievement is never an endpoint. It is a living, breathing process, a continuous evolution guided by the systems we choose to adopt and refine each day. When systems align the mind with purpose and the heart with patience, a remarkable transformation takes place. Most men live with their attention scattered, pulled in 1,000 directions by distractions, desires, and fears. They chase what glitters without understanding what truly matters. Yet a system, thoughtfully constructed, serves as both compass and anchor. It clarifies what is important, directs effort in meaningful ways, and cultivates the patience necessary to see long-term results. It bridges the gap between fleeting impulses and enduring achievement, teaching the individual to act with intent day after day. Purpose without discipline is like a ship without a rudder. It may move, it may drift, but it will not reach the distant shore. Systems, on the other hand, give purpose form. They break grand intentions into daily actions that are simple, repeatable, and consistent. The man who wishes to become learned does not simply declare a goal to know more. He builds a system of reading, reflection, and note-taking. Each day he grows a little wiser, and over time, what was once an abstract aim becomes concrete knowledge, and knowledge transforms into insight. The system channels purpose into momentum, ensuring that the individual does not merely dream but actually progresses. Patience is the silent companion of every effective system. Modern life encourages instant results, and yet the most meaningful achievements require time. The entrepreneur who launches a new business does not see wealth immediately. The writer does not see acclaim with the first chapter. The athlete does not reach peak performance overnight. Systems teach the mind that progress is incremental and that patience is not passivity but active engagement with the process. Each repetition, each consistent step becomes an investment in a future that is steadily being built. When mind and heart are aligned through a system, obstacles cease to appear as insurmountable. Setbacks are not disasters but feedback. Failures are not endings but instructions. The man guided by his system continues steadily, calmly, because his attention is fixed on the process rather than on the emotional turbulence of temporary difficulties. Systems provide a framework in which both thought and action are harmonized, reducing the chaos of indecision and the anxiety of uncertainty. Perhaps the greatest power of a system lies in its ability to make extraordinary outcomes inevitable. When the mind focuses clearly on purpose and the heart cultivates patience, the daily actions compound in ways that surprise even the person who performs them. The results appear almost magically, yet they are the natural consequence of deliberate, repeated action guided by a structure that keeps the individual moving steadily forward. It is in this alignment, purpose driving the mind, patience guiding the heart, that progress becomes certain and achievement ceases to be a matter of luck or fleeting motivation. The man who understands this does not chase the future desperately, nor does he cling to fleeting inspiration. He designs his systems carefully, acts consistently, and allows the natural laws of compounding effort, clarity, and patience to shape his destiny. In such a life, every day carries meaning, every action contributes to growth, and every small step moves him closer to the vision he has set for himself. Those who live by systems don't chase success. They attract it. It is a subtle difference, yet one of the most profound truths about human achievement. The world is full of men and women running after results, chasing promotions, chasing wealth, chasing recognition, as if the pursuit itself were the secret to fulfillment. And yet, those who seem to succeed effortlessly do not chase at all. They design their lives around systems, structures, and habits that naturally draw success toward them, like iron filings to a magnet. They understand that success is not something to be pursued, it is a consequence of who they are and what they do consistently. A system aligns action with intention. It removes reliance on fleeting inspiration and instead creates a framework where effort becomes automatic and results become predictable. The artist who paints daily, not for fame but because it is the rhythm of his life, does not worry whether his work will be recognized. The musician who practices scales and songs every day does not fret over applause. The entrepreneur who delivers value to his customers consistently does not obsess over market share. In each case, the system itself produces outcomes that the individual could never create by chasing success alone. There is also a quiet psychological power in living by systems. When a man focuses on daily actions rather than distant results, he frees himself from anxiety, frustration, and impatience. He does not measure his worth by what he has achieved today or by how quickly his ambitions are realized. Instead, he measures himself by the quality of his actions and the consistency with which he follows his system. This inner calm, this confidence in the process, attracts opportunity and influence because people are drawn to those who act with clarity, purpose, and reliability. Success becomes a natural byproduct of character and habit. Systems also cultivate resilience. The man who chases success reacts to setbacks with fear or discouragement because his focus is on what he does not yet have. The man who lives by a system treats obstacles as feedback, learning opportunities, and chances to refine his methods. He does not stop when the path grows steep. He simply continues following the pattern he has designed. Each challenge strengthens the system itself, making it more robust, more reliable, and more capable of producing extraordinary outcomes over time. The beauty of this approach is that it makes success inevitable without making it frantic or desperate. When a system is well built, it functions like a law of nature. Apply it consistently, and the results follow. There is no need to chase, no need to force, no need to struggle against chance or circumstance. the individual becomes a living attractor for the very achievements that others are frantically seeking. Ultimately, to live by systems is to live in harmony with the principles of growth, effort, and compounding results. It is to understand that life rewards structure, consistency, and intentional action far more than it rewards panic, luck, or temporary bursts of motivation. Those who adopt this understanding do not merely hope for success. They create it naturally, steadily, and inevitably through the design of their daily lives. Let me offer you a timeless truth. The system you live by will always create the life you live in. If your system is built on learning daily, growing steadily, and doing one small thing with care and purpose, you'll soon look back and realize you've crossed mountains without noticing the climb. Start small. Design your days around actions that lead naturally to your desired results. Want to be healthier? Build a system of sleep, nutrition, and movement. Want to be wealthier? Build a system of saving, learning, and creating value. Want to be wiser? Build a system of reading, reflection, and humility. The formula for success has never been in setting lofty goals. It has always been in structuring your life to make progress inevitable. When a system is in place, failure becomes feedback, not defeat. You don't fall off track because the track is the system. It guides you back. Like a compass, it doesn't promise a quick path, but it ensures a sure one. So tonight, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, not, what goal do I want to reach, but what system can I begin today? Because once your system is sound, your goals will take care of themselves. Tomorrow morning, before the day begins, write down one small habit, one action you can repeat daily, that moves you in the direction you wish to go. Commit to it for 30 days. Don't aim for perfection, aim for consistency. For the man who builds a system builds his future, one simple, deliberate act at a time.